You've probably noticed recently, I mean, who could ignore it, who could miss it, that we've been separated a lot. We've been put into different boxes of people. You know, it could be your politics. You know, are you left, right, center? Are you fit into one of the intersectionality categories? You know, do you wear a mask, or do you want to wear a mask when you go out, whatever that might be? And it just keeps breaking down into all these different little boxes that we all fit in, and we, you know, kind of all don't get along with the other people, and, you know, those bad people over there. Well, that's not what I want to talk about. That's just the lead in. So while that's happening, there is something that I'm noticing is coming together and becoming a little bit more cohesive. And I've talked before about the religious triangle. So in no particular order, you have atheists, you have religious people, and you have spiritual people. And just like with the political triangle, from each point on the triangle, the other two look insane. So, for example, from the atheist point of view, generally the religious people and the spiritual people look insane. But from the religious point of view, both the atheist and the spiritual are both, I know, nobody's this harsh, but I'm going to say godless heathens, and so on, right? And so what I've been noticing lately is kind of a blending of these more than I've seen in the past. It used to be that if you met someone who was really religious, chances are they were on the right, they were more conservative. If you met someone who was an atheist, you could assume that they were probably going to be on the left. Reasonable assumptions. I'm not talking about everybody. I know everybody is an individual, but these are like a reasonable assumption that you could make of people. And a lot of times you almost felt like to be part of that that political group, you had to be a certain thing as well. So, for example, like if you were into spirituality and crystals and, you know, whatever, like hippie kind of people. So then you'd think, well, automatically I must be on the left because I'm into this kind of stuff. Well, that's not what I'm seeing as much lately. Lately, you know, I've gone to different groups on spirituality and stuff like that. And, you know, I kind of expect that most people I'm going to run into are going to be on the political left. And I'm actually finding more and more that people are politically right, or at least a little bit more center, but they're not exactly what you would expect when you go into a group like that. So it's like there's this, instead of this harsh triangle of those three, it's like it's blended a little bit more. Like people are sort of moving into the middle of the triangle and coming together a little bit more. So I see atheists going to church just for the church environment. I see people who are spiritual going to church. I see people who go to church also going to other events. Like people who believe in God are also going to other places, like where there might be psychics or you know, crystal healing or something like that. And I know that there's extremes on every point of that triangle where they're going to say, oh, well, they can't be a Christian if they're doing that, or they can't really be an atheist if they're going to church, you know, that kind of stuff. So of course there's people on the extremes, but I'm talking more about the way that it's blending and the way that a lot of these assumptions are starting to be broken down, because they're no longer as valid. The stereotypes just aren't holding up anymore. It's like this middle ground of spirituality that is coming about. And so it's a way for everyone to come together in this time when everyone's being chopped up into their little sections. Now we have this other thing happening sort of quietly in the background, where these different spiritualities, these different expressions of that spiritual nature are coming together. So you can go to somewhere and you can all in one place hear people talking about about God, about Zen practices, about apotheosis. God is the universe, non-duality. Like I said, the psychics and the crystals and the tarot cards, and even, and this one's really interesting too, is when it comes to things like psychedelics. You think of psychedelics as being very left-wing. Well, I've run into quite a number of people recently who go on these voyages of, like going to, say, Costa Rica to do ayahuasca or something, and they're very conservative people. And so that, and I mention that because that has become and is sort of a spiritual experience. So what you have is no longer this hard line of, if you do psychedelics, you must be on the left. It's that if you do psychedelics, you become more spiritual. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you become more religious or that you become more of a hippie or anything like that. It no longer has to mean that because of this blending where everyone is coming together. So I think this is great. I think this is wonderful because everyone's kind of starting to see, well, I hate to say they're coming to see it like me, because I've been all over that spectrum throughout my life, but it is nice to see more people that I can relate to in this fashion because they are more accepting of each other, and in a lot of cases, they themselves blur that line. They themselves say, you know what, there could be a guy named God, and there could be a God within me, and the universe could be God, and they can think all of these things at the same time as maybe the atheist would, of saying, well, from a scientific point of view, we are starting to see a lot of things, come together, like, psychic phenomenon and stuff like that. They are something that is combined with all of this. And so even the atheists get to join in the game. They get to play in the sandbox now too, because science is saying that a lot of this stuff must have some validity. So this is wonderful. Keep it up. Let's see how many other ways we can blend together instead of all these, chopping us up into different little pieces of, you're on the left and you wear a mask and, whatever it might be. That stuff is all a bit ridiculous. Let's go with as much blending as possible, as much seeing where we have things in common as possible. And of course, hit the like button. Let me know what you guys think.